Commander Vexlar stared at the holographic display with tired eyes. The star map showed endless empty space ahead, colored in dark red to mark the unmapped regions. Behind him, his crew worked in silence. Everyone knew this mission was their last chance. The Corvathian Mining Corporation was bankrupt. If they did not find valuable resources in the outer spiral, they would all lose their jobs and their ships. "Commander, we are approaching the boundary," said his pilot, a young Corvathian named Thelix. His voice carried nervousness that he tried to hide. Vexlar nodded. The boundary was the edge of known space, where the Galactic Council had stopped mapping 200 years ago. Beyond this line, no expedition had found anything worth the risk. Most ships that went too far never came back. The Council called this region the Galactic Dead Zone and warned everyone to stay away. But Vexlar had no choice. His company needed minerals, rare elements, anything that could save them from complete failure. He had studied old reports and found strange readings from this area. Energy signatures that did not match any known natural phenomenon. His science team thought he was chasing ghosts, but desperate times required desperate actions. "Take us through," Vexlar ordered. "Slow and steady. Keep all scanners active." The 3 mining ships crossed the boundary together. For several hours, nothing changed. They passed through empty space, scanning system after system. Dead planets, cold asteroids, nothing unusual. The crew began to relax, thinking this would be just another failed expedition. Then everything changed. "Commander," shouted Lyra, his science officer. Her scales had turned pale blue, which meant extreme surprise or fear. "I am detecting impossible readings. There is a star system ahead with massive artificial structures." Vexlar rushed to her station. The display showed a G-type star, similar to thousands of others in the galaxy, but surrounding it was something he had only seen in ancient history files. A Dyson swarm, thousands of satellites orbiting the star, collecting its energy. Such construction required technology and resources that only the most advanced civilizations possessed. "How is this possible?" Vexlar whispered. "The Council mapped this region as empty." "That is not all, Commander," Lyra continued. Her claws tapped frantically on her controls. "I am detecting quantum signatures, energy emissions using band frequency ranges, and electromagnetic signals that match no known civilization." Band frequencies. Those words sent ice through Vexlar's veins. 10,000 years ago, the Galactic Council had forbidden certain technologies after they nearly destroyed half the galaxy. Any civilization using those technologies was considered a threat to all life. "Should we retreat?" asked Thelix. Vexlar thought carefully. They should report this immediately and let the Council handle it. But communications would take weeks to reach Council space from here. And if there was a civilization here, perhaps they could trade. Perhaps they could solve the mining corporation's problems. "No," Vexlar decided. "We proceed carefully. Prepare a first contact message in Galactic Common. Broadcast our peaceful intentions." The ships moved closer to the system. As they approached the 4th planet from the star, their sensors showed more impossible things. Orbital structures that read as weapons platforms. Ships moving between planets at speeds that violated known physics. Energy readings that made no sense according to established science. Then, without warning, everything stopped. "Commander, all systems offline," Thelix shouted. The ship went dark. No lights, no power, no life support. Emergency backups failed to activate. Through the viewport, Vexlar saw his other 2 ships floating dead in space just like his own. Panic filled his chest. This was how ships disappeared in the dead zone. Whatever civilization lived here had just disabled 3 vessels without firing a single weapon. For 10 terrifying minutes they drifted in darkness. Then slowly the lights came back on. Systems rebooted one by one, but they were locked out of their own controls. Something else was operating their ship. A small craft appeared on their sensors. It was primitive looking compared to Council designs, with angular surfaces and crude propulsion. But it moved with impossible precision, appearing beside them almost instantly. "Incoming transmission," Lyra announced, her voice shaking. A voice filled the bridge. It spoke perfect Galactic Common, though with a strange accent. "Attention, unknown vessels. You have entered restricted space. Your weapons and engines have been disabled for your safety and ours. Please remain calm." Vexlar found his voice. "This is Commander Vexlar of the Corvathian Mining Corporation. We come in peace. We did not know this system was inhabited." A pause. Then the voice responded, "We know. You could not have known. We have been hidden here for a very long time. My name is Captain Rodriguez. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth's solar system. We have been expecting someone to find us eventually. Humanity? Vexlar had never heard of such a species in all the Council databases. That is correct. We are humans. And before you ask your next question, yes, we know we are using technologies your Council banned. We had no choice. Let me explain while we escort you to our orbital station. You're going to want to sit down for this story. As the primitive-looking ship guided them toward the fourth planet, Captain Rodriguez told them an incredible tale. 3,000 years ago, Earth had been a normal inhabited world in a different part of the galaxy. Then something called the Curator had appeared. This entity, far more powerful than anything in Council space, had transported Earth and its entire solar system to this location. They had been surrounded by an energy barrier that nothing could pass through. The Curator had left only one message: survive or become extinct. We will return. For 3,000 years, humanity had been trapped, cut off from the rest of the galaxy, facing the barrier's energy storms that killed anything that tried to escape, strange phenomena that threatened their existence. They had to innovate or die. So we innovated, Captain Rodriguez said, his voice carrying both pride and sadness. We reopened every restricted research field. Weaponized quantum mechanics, artificial intelligence merged with biological consciousness, genetic engineering beyond anything your Council would allow, matter energy conversion. We built things that should not exist because we had to. Your Council banned these technologies because they were dangerous, but your Council was not facing extinction. The escort continued toward Earth. As they passed through the orbital infrastructure, Vexlar's science officer studied her scanner with growing horror. She turned to him, her face showing pure fear. "Commander," Lyra whispered so the crew would not hear. "Those are not power stations. Those are weapons. I am reading energy signatures that could crack planets, and they are everywhere. Dozens of them in orbit, maybe hundreds throughout the system." Vexlar looked out the viewport at the blue and green planet below. It looked beautiful, peaceful, but surrounding it was an arsenal that could wage war against the entire Galactic Council. "Who are these humans?" he whispered. "And what have they become?" The orbital station called Threshold was larger than most Council spaceports. Vexlar and his crew walked through corridors filled with technology that should not exist. Humans moved around them with easy confidence, their bodies modified in ways that would horrify Council biologists. Some had eyes that glowed with internal light. Others had skin patterns that shifted colors. A few had mechanical limbs that blended seamlessly with organic tissue. A human woman waited for them in a large meeting room. She was tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to analyze everything. "Commander Vexlar, I am Dr. Sarah Chen. I serve as humanity's liaison for first contact situations. Though to be honest, we thought first contact would happen differently. Please sit. I know you have many questions." Vexlar sat in a chair designed for his species, which meant the humans had prepared for this meeting. "Dr. Chen, I must ask directly. Why did your people develop banned technologies? The Council prohibited them for good reasons. They nearly destroyed the galaxy 10,000 years ago." Sarah nodded slowly. "You are right to be concerned. Let me show you why we had no choice." She activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, surrounded by a shimmering barrier. "When the Curator moved our planet here, we were surrounded by this. We called it the barrier. It was not just a prison. It actively tried to kill us." The display showed recordings from humanity's early years in isolation, energy storms that struck their ships and stations, dimensional tears that appeared randomly, destroying anything nearby, strange radiation that passed through all known shielding. Vexlar watched in horror as human colonies died, ships exploded, and cities burned. "In the first 100 years, we lost 4 billion people," Sarah said quietly. "Our conventional technology was useless. Council-approved science could not explain what was happening, much less stop it. We faced a choice: die following rules made by civilizations that abandoned us, or survive by breaking those rules." She changed the display to show human scientists working frantically in laboratories. "We started with artificial intelligence. The Council banned true AI after the machine rebellions, but we needed something that could think faster than biological minds. We developed synthetic consciousness and merged it with human neural patterns. The result was AI that thought like us but processed information at computer speeds." Lyra, Vexlar's science officer, spoke up. "That is extremely dangerous. AI-human hybrids caused the Burning Age. 3 civilizations were completely destroyed. We know the history, Sarah replied. We took precautions. Our AI is not separate from us, it is us. Many humans now have digital aspects to their consciousness. We can interface with computers directly, share thoughts and memories, back up our minds. It sounds terrifying, I know, but it saved us. The display showed more innovations. Genetic modifications that allowed humans to survive in environments that would kill any council species. Quantum weapons that could fire through multiple dimensions, ships powered by contained singularities, and everywhere the energy signatures of technologies that violated established physics. Come, Sarah said, standing. Let me show you what we built. You deserve to understand what you have found before you report to your council. They walked through the station to an observation deck. Below them, Earth glowed blue and green, but surrounding it was something else entirely. Vexler counted 37 massive satellites, each larger than a battleship. Energy flowed between them in visible streams. The Prometheus Array, Sarah explained. It collects energy from our sun and redirects it. In peacetime, it powers our civilization. In war, it becomes the most powerful weapon humanity ever created. Each satellite can focus a stream of stellar energy, capable of cutting through any known shield. Together, they could reduce a planet to molten slag in minutes. Thelex made a sound of distress. Why would you build such a thing? That is a weapon of genocide. Sarah turned to him, her expression sad. Because 600 years ago, something came through the barrier. We still do not know what it was. Some kind of automated probe or weapon from beyond our galaxy. It destroyed our Mars colony in seconds, killed 8 million people before we could react. The Prometheus Array was our response. We built it to ensure nothing would ever threaten Earth again. She led them to another section of the station. Through windows, they saw shipyards building vessels unlike anything in council space, sleek angular craft with no visible engines, weapons that seemed to grow organically from their hulls. Our antimatter warships, Sarah said. They use quantum tunneling to move faster than light without using hyperspace. They can phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to hit, and their weapons fire through dimensional tiers, bypassing shields entirely. Vexlar felt sick. Each innovation Sarah showed them was brilliant and terrifying. Humanity had taken 3,000 years of desperate survival and turned it into an arsenal that could threaten the entire galaxy. Dr. Chen, Vexlar said carefully, you must understand how this looks. Your species possesses technologies that destroyed civilizations in the past. The Council will see you as an existential threat. I know, Sarah replied. But consider this, Commander. We did not choose this isolation. We did not choose to face threats that required such extreme solutions. Your Council mapped the galaxy for 200,000 years. Where were they when the Curator took us? Where were they when we faced extinction? Her voice grew harder. The galaxy abandoned us to die. We chose to live. And we will not apologize for surviving. The philosophical argument hung in the air. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the station. A human officer ran up to Sarah, speaking quickly in their own language. Her face went pale. What is wrong? Vexler asked. Sarah turned to him. Your ship. Before we disabled it, it sent a distress beacon. A very powerful one. The signal just reached Council space. She pulled up a display showing intercepted transmissions. Vexler's ship had sent an automated message. Unknown hostile civilization discovered. Advanced weapons detected. Extreme threat level. Request immediate assistance. No, Vexler whispered. That was an automatic protocol. I did not authorize that message. Sarah looked at him with something like pity. It does not matter now. Your Council knows we are here, and based on the response we are intercepting, they are not interested in peaceful contact. The display showed transmissions from Council space, emergency sessions being called, military fleets being mobilized, and one message that made Vexlar's blood run cold. It came from High Chancellor Thorum himself, broadcast to all Council worlds. A grave threat has been discovered at the edge of mapped space, a civilization wielding technologies banned since the Burning Age. These technologies nearly destroyed our ancestors. We cannot allow history to repeat itself. I am authorizing the formation of an armada. We will travel to this threat and neutralize it before the contamination spreads. The Council will not permit another age of fire and death. Sarah closed the display. It seems first contact is going to be more complicated than we hoped. Commander, I need to ask you something important. When your Council arrives with their armada, whose side will you be on? The civilization following ancient rules? Or the species that broke every rule to survive? Vexillar looked out at Earth, at the humans walking through the station, at the weapons and technology that should not exist. He thought about Sarah's words. The galaxy abandoned them. They chose to live. He did not have an answer yet. But he knew one thing for certain. When the Council Armada arrived, this corner of the galaxy would never be the same again. 3 months had passed since Vexillar's discovery. Now he stood on the bridge of his ship, watching 500 Council warships emerge from hyperspace. The Judgment Fleet, they called it. The largest military force assembled in 3,000 years. Every major species had contributed ships. The message was clear. Humanity would submit or be destroyed. High Chancellor Thorum's face appeared on every display. The ancient Tharxian looked grim, his crystalline features reflecting the lights of the bridge. Attention, human civilization. I am High Chancellor Thorum of the Galactic Council. You have been found in possession of technologies banned since the White Knee. Burning Age, these weapons and sciences pose an unacceptable threat to all civilized life. Vexillar watched from his position on a human observation platform. Sarah stood beside him, her face unreadable. Around Earth, humanity's fleet had assembled. Only 200 ships compared to the Council's 500. But Vexillar had spent 3 months studying human technology. Numbers might not matter here. Thorum continued his transmission. We offer these terms. Surrender all forbidden technologies to Council oversight. Submit to genetic correction to remove unauthorized biological modifications. Relocate your population to Council-approved worlds where you can be properly monitored. And finally, Earth will be destroyed to ensure these dangerous technologies cannot be rediscovered by future civilizations. You have 1 standard hour to accept these terms. Silence fell across both fleets. Then a new voice responded. Admiral Marcus Wade, commander of Earth's defense fleet. He was an older human with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. High Chancellor Thorum, we reject your terms. We will not surrender technologies that kept us alive. We will not allow our people to be genetically altered, and we will not abandon our homeworld. Then you choose extinction? Thorum replied coldly. No, Admiral Wade said. We choose to defend ourselves, just as we have for 3,000 years. We do not want war with the Council, but we will not be victims again. The transmission ended. For several moments, nothing happened. Then the Council fleet began moving forward in attack formation. Vexillar felt his heart racing. He had tried to prevent this. He had spoken to the Council explaining that humanity was desperate, not evil. But fear was stronger than reason. All ships commence attack, Thorum ordered. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Council plasma cannons and missile barrages streaked toward human positions. Vexillar expected to see ships explode, shields fail. The quick victory the Council predicted. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they had phased out of normal space. Council weapons passed through empty space where targets had been milliseconds before. Then the human ships reappeared behind Council lines, firing weapons that tore through shields as if they were paper. What is happening? Thorum demanded, his voice shocked. A Council admiral responded frantically. They are using quantum phase technology, moving between dimensions. Our targeting systems cannot track them. Human ships danced through the battle space, appearing and disappearing at will. Their weapons fired through dimensional tiers, striking from angles that should not exist. Council cruisers exploded one after another. Fighters launched to counter them were met by swarms of AI-controlled drones that moved with perfect coordination. But the Council had numbers. For every human ship that phased away, 10 Council vessels took its place. Slowly, through sheer weight of firepower, they began to surround Earth. Activate the Prometheus Array, Admiral Wade ordered. The 37 satellites around Earth glowed brighter. Energy streams connected them in a complex web. Then all at once they fired. Beams of concentrated stellar energy lanced through space. Where they touched Council shields, the shields simply evaporated. Where they struck hulls, metal and alloy melted instantly. In 30 seconds, the Prometheus Array destroyed 47 Council warships. Panic spread through the Council fleet. This was not supposed to happen. They were the dominant power in the galaxy. They had numbers, experience, and 200,000 years of technological advancement. But humanity had 3,000 years of desperate innovation, and it was proving to be enough. Thorum's voice cut through the chaos. All capital ships prepare planet-killer weapons. If we cannot neutralize this threat conventionally, we will destroy the entire system. Planet killer weapons, the ultimate tool of genocide. Missiles that could crack a world's crust and boil its oceans. Vexlar felt horror wash over him. This had gone too far. Whatever happened next, millions would die. But before the Council could launch, something new appeared on sensors. A massive spatial distortion forming near Earth. Not a hyperspace window. Something else entirely. What is that? Lyra asked, her voice terrified. Sarah's expression was grim. That is humanity's final card. The thing we hoped we would never have to use. The distortion stabilized. It was a wormhole, but not one leading to another part of this galaxy. The readings showed it connecting to a point 3,000 light-years away. Directly above the Council homeworld of Tharx's, Admiral Wade's voice broadcast to every ship. High Chancellor Thorum, we have opened a wormhole to your homeworld. Right now I have 3 ships positioned on the other side. Each one carries antimatter warheads capable of igniting your atmosphere. One more aggressive move from your fleet and we will drag your entire civilization into a star. Absolute silence. The threat was clear and terrible. Humanity could strike at the heart of the Council from across the galaxy. Their wormhole technology made distance meaningless. Earth might fall, but the Council would burn with them. You are bluffing, Thorum said, but his voice carried uncertainty. Test me, Wade replied coldly. We have survived 3,000 years of isolation. We have built weapons that make your fleet look like toys. Do you really think we are bluffing? The standoff held. 2 fleets frozen in space, weapons charged, ready to unleash destruction that would echo through history. Vexlar realized he was witnessing a turning point. Whatever happened in the next few minutes would define the galaxy's future. Then a human scientist named Dr. Yuki Tanaka broke into the communication. Wait, everyone stop. I have discovered something critical about the barrier that imprisoned us. Not now, Doctor, Wade said. Yes, now, Yuki insisted. I have been studying the barrier data for months. It is not random. It follows patterns. Mathematical patterns that match biological development, growth, stress, adaptation, maturation. The barrier was not a prison to keep us trapped. It was a chrysalis to force us to evolve. Sarah grabbed the data Yuki was sending. Her eyes went wide as she read. She is right. The curator did not abandon us to die. They were forcing us to adapt, to develop these technologies. We were not being punished. We were being prepared. Prepared for what? Thorum asked. As if in answer, alarms sounded on every ship simultaneously. Sensors detected something massive approaching from deep space, something far larger than any planet, larger than most stars, a structure of impossible size moving through space in ways that violated every law of physics. A message broadcast on all frequencies, in every language known to the galaxy. The voice was ancient and vast, carrying power that made even Admiral Wade pause. Humanity has passed the test, the voice announced. You have proven capable of survival through innovation and adaptation. The curator returns. Now, children of Earth and children of the Council, we shall see if the galaxy itself can pass the trial ahead. The enormous structure came into view. It was a ship, but calling it a ship was like calling a sun a candle. It dwarfed everything else in the system. Beside it, Earth looked like a small blue marble. The curator had returned, and suddenly humanity's weapons and the Council's fleet seemed very small indeed. Vexlar looked at Sarah. What trial? What is the curator talking about? Her face showed the same fear he felt. I do not know, but I think we are about to find out why humanity was really prepared. The curator ship hung in space like a monument to impossible engineering. Its surface shifted and flowed, appearing solid one moment and transparent the next. Vexlar watched it from the human orbital station, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. This was technology so far beyond both humanity and the Council that comparing them was meaningless. Then something even stranger happened. On every ship, every station, every planet in the system, a being appeared. It was not a hologram or a transmission. It was actually there, simultaneously present in millions of locations at once. The being had no fixed form, shifting between shapes made of pure energy and light. I am the curator, it said, and its voice echoed inside Vexlar's mind rather than through his ears. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but what I must tell you requires your complete attention. High Chancellor Thorum, still on his flagship, found his voice first. Why did you imprison humanity? Why did you force them to develop forbidden technologies? The curator's form flickered, showing scenes from ancient history. Civilizations rising and falling, galaxies burning, stars going dark. 3 million years ago, my people faced the same questions you face now. We were fragmented into thousands of species, fighting over resources and territory. Then we discovered the truth that your council has forgotten or chosen to ignore. More images appeared, something vast and dark moving between galaxies. Wherever it went, civilizations vanished. Entire regions of space went silent. We call it the harvest. Others have named it the end, the silence, the devourer. It has existed for billions of years, moving between galaxies in a cycle. Every 50,000 years it returns to each galaxy it has visited before. It consumes civilizations that have reached certain technological levels. Vexillar felt ice in his veins. Why? What is it? We do not know if it is a natural force or something created long ago by a civilization we cannot imagine. The curator replied. What we know is that it cannot be reasoned with or negotiated with. It simply harvests. It takes technology, knowledge, biological patterns, everything that makes a civilization unique. Then it moves on, leaving nothing but empty worlds. Admiral Wade spoke up. And the technologies the council banned? Those are the only things that can fight it? Yes, the curator confirmed. Your council's ancestors encountered the harvest 50,000 years ago. They fought it using advanced quantum weapons, artificial intelligence, and dimensional manipulation. They barely survived. In their fear and trauma, they banned all the technologies that saved them. They convinced themselves that if civilization stayed primitive enough, the harvest would not notice them. Thorum's crystalline features seemed to crack with emotion. That is a lie. Our histories say those technologies were banned because they caused the Burning Age, the machine rebellions, the quantum wars. Those events were real, the curator acknowledged, but they happened because your ancestors were developing weapons in panic, without proper understanding. They made mistakes. After the harvest left, instead of learning from those mistakes and mastering those technologies safely, they banned everything. They chose stagnation over the risk of innovation. Sarah stepped forward. So you took humanity. You isolated us and forced us to develop these technologies properly. You made us your weapon. Not just a weapon, the curator said, its tone almost sad. An example. A proof that evolution through pressure can work. My people evolved this way. We faced extinction from both ourselves and from the harvest. We chose to change, to merge our consciousness into a collective that could think across time and space. We became something that the harvest could not consume. Then we began traveling the universe, seeding other civilizations with the same potential. How many? Vexillar asked. How many species have you done this to? Thousands, the curator replied. Most failed. They destroyed themselves in the pressure. Some succeeded but chose isolation, hiding from the galaxy rather than joining it. Humanity is the first to both survive and remain willing to integrate with the larger civilization. You are the first success story. A new alarm interrupted them. This one came from deep space monitoring stations at the galaxy's edge. A council officer's voice crackled through, filled with terror. Hi, Chancellor. We are receiving emergency signals from the outer colonies. Multiple systems going dark. Something is destroying everything. The curator's form darkened. It has begun. The harvest has returned to this galaxy, sooner than my calculations predicted. The vanguard forces are already here. Images appeared showing the truth. At the galaxy's edge, entire star systems were going silent. Ships that went to investigate never returned. Colonies with billions of inhabitants simply stopped transmitting. The pattern was spreading inward, a wave of silence consuming everything in its path. How long do we have? Admiral Wade asked, his military training taking over. The main harvest fleet will reach the Galactic core in 18 months, the curator said. But the vanguard you are seeing now will continue spreading. Within 6 months it will reach council space. Lyra was frantically checking her instruments. Commander, I'm getting reports. Corvath Prime, your homeworld, it was in the path of the vanguard. The last transmission was 3 hours ago. Since then, complete silence. Vexillar felt his world collapse. Corvath Prime, 12 billion people. His family. His children, gone. Just like that. Consumed by something they could not fight, could not understand, could barely detect before it was too late. Thorum's voice was hollow. What can we do? If the harvest is as powerful as you say, how can we possibly fight it? Separately you cannot, the curator said. The Council's technology is insufficient. Humanity's weapons, while impressive, are not enough alone. But together, if you combine Council resources with human innovation, if you are willing to embrace the very technologies you banned, you have a chance. More than a chance, Admiral Wade added, studying tactical data. A fighting chance. But it requires trust. The Council must give humanity full access to their industrial capacity and resources. Humanity must share every weapon, every technology, every secret. No holding back on either side. Thorum looked at the images of dying worlds. Vexlar saw the calculation in the Chancellor's eyes. Pride versus survival. Ancient rules versus extinction. Finally, Thorum spoke. The Council will need to vote. But I will recommend full cooperation. We will form a joint task force. Human technology. Council resources. Together we prepare for war. Not just war, the curator corrected. Evolution. The harvest will force you to change or die. This is the test I mentioned. Can your civilizations work together? Can you adapt fast enough? Can you become something greater than what you were? Sarah looked at Vexlar. Your people were the first to find us. First contact. And now you have lost your homeworld to the very threat we were prepared to fight. I am sorry, Commander. But we need you. Will you help us organize this joint force? Vexlar thought of Korvath Prime. His family likely dead. His world silent. Consumed by an enemy that should not exist. Rage and grief fought inside him. But under both was something else, determination. Yes, he said quietly. I will help. Not just because we need humanity's weapons, but because if the curator is right, everything we thought we knew was wrong. The Council was not protecting civilization by banning these technologies. They were ensuring our extinction. Over the next 6 months, the galaxy transformed. Human scientists worked with Council engineers. Forbidden weapons were manufactured on an industrial scale. Species that had never cooperated before suddenly had to work together or face oblivion. Vexlar coordinated logistics, using his knowledge of both human and Council systems. He watched as fear slowly turned into hope. Maybe they could win this. Maybe the curator was right. Then came the message that shattered that hope. A deep space monitoring station sent its final transmission. Vanguard Force has reached Korvath system. We count 50,000 harvest entities. They are not ships. They are something else. Biological, mechanical, something in between. They are learning, adapting to our weapons. They destroyed the defensive fleet in minutes. They are consuming the planet. Oh gods, they are consuming everything. This is our final message. Warn the others. The harvest is worse than we imagined. The transmission cut off. 50,000 entities, and that was just the Vanguard. The main fleet would have millions. Admiral Wade looked at the tactical display. We need more time. We need more weapons. We need a miracle. The curator appeared before them again. You need to understand something. The harvest is not just destroying civilizations. It is learning from them. Every technology it consumes makes it stronger. Every tactic used against it makes it smarter. By the time the main fleet arrives, it will have adapted to everything you have now. Then how do we win? Sarah demanded. By doing what humanity did in isolation, the curator replied. You innovate faster than it can adapt. You change the rules of engagement. You become something it cannot predict or consume. You evolve. Vexlar looked at the gathered leaders, human and Council alike. Everyone looked scared, but also determined. The galaxy had spent 50,000 years stagnating, following old rules, refusing to change. Now change was not optional. It was survival. Then we start now, Vexlar said. We have 6 months before the harvest reaches the next inhabited systems. 6 months to become something new. 6 months of desperate preparation had led to this moment. Vexlar stood on the bridge of a hybrid warship, built using both human and Council technology. Around him, a fleet of 50,000 ships waited at the Korvath system. Not to reclaim it, there was nothing left to reclaim. But to make a stand. To draw a line that the harvest would not cross. Admiral Wade's voice came through the communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Wade, I will not lie to you. What we face today is beyond anything our civilizations have encountered before. The harvest has consumed 23 systems. That is 400 billion people. 400 billion lives ended in silence. Vexlar felt each word like a blade. Among those billions were his wife and children. He had not had time to properly grieve. There would be time for grief later if there was a later. But we are not helpless, Wade continued. Humanity spent 3,000 years learning to survive the impossible. The Council spent 200,000 years building the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever seen. Today we combine both. Today we show the Harvest that this galaxy will not go quietly into extinction. On the sensors, the Harvest appeared. They were not ships in any traditional sense. They were entities, massive organic mechanical hybrids that seemed to grow and shift as they moved. Each one was different, as if they were individuals rather than machines. Or perhaps they were both. Vexlar counted thousands of them, spread across the system like a plague. "Commence attack," Wade ordered. The combined fleet opened fire. Human quantum weapons tore holes in space. Council plasma cannons lit up the darkness. Missiles with antimatter warheads streaked toward targets. For the first few minutes, it seemed to work. Harvest entities exploded under the concentrated fire. Dozens fell, then hundreds. But then the Harvest adapted. The entities began shifting their composition. Where quantum weapons had destroyed them before, now the tears in space simply passed through them harmlessly. Where antimatter had vaporized them, now they absorbed the energy and grew larger. They were learning in real time, evolving to counter every weapon used against them. "They are adapting faster than our projections," Lyra reported from her station. Her voice was steady, but Vexlar could hear the fear underneath. "At this rate, they will be immune to our entire arsenal within the hour." Sarah Chen, now serving as the science coordinator for the fleet, spoke urgently. "They are not just defending. They are taking our technology. Every weapon we use teaches them. Every tactic shows them our thinking. They are consuming information as well as matter." A Harvest entity attached itself to a Council cruiser. Within seconds, the ship went dark. When the entity detached and moved on, the cruiser was empty. Not destroyed. Empty, as if the crew had never existed. The ship itself was intact, but all life, all data, everything that made it more than metal and circuits was gone. "All ships, fall back to defensive formation," Wade ordered, but even as he spoke, more ships went dark. The Harvest entities moved through the fleet like predators among prey. For every entity destroyed, 3 more appeared from deeper in the system. Vexlar realized the horrible truth. They were not fighting an army. They were fighting an ecosystem, a vast distributed intelligence that learned and adapted as a single organism. Every loss made it smarter. Every victory for the fleet was just data for the Harvest to analyze and counter. "We are losing," Thorum said from his command ship. The old Chancellor sounded defeated. "We cannot win this way. They adapt too quickly." Dr. Sarah Chen's face appeared on all command displays. She looked exhausted and terrified, but also determined. "There is one option left. The Omega Protocol." Silence fell across the fleet. Everyone knew what that meant. During their isolation, humanity had developed a final weapon. A cascading quantum collapse bomb that could unravel matter at the subatomic level. But its cost was terrible. It would destroy everything in a 50 light-year radius. Every ship. Every planet. Every living thing. That would kill billions, Thorum protested. 15 Council worlds are within that radius. We would be committing genocide against our own people. "If the Harvest reaches the core worlds, it will be trillions," Admiral Wade replied grimly. "We are at the edge of the galaxy for a reason. This is what humanity was prepared for." "Making the choice no one else could make." Vexlar looked at the tactical display. The Harvest was spreading. In days, it would reach the next cluster of inhabited systems. Hundreds of billions more lives. If they acted now with the Omega Protocol, they could stop it. But the cost? How long until the weapon is ready? Vexlar asked, surprised at how steady his own voice was. 30 minutes, Sarah replied. "We have been preparing it since the battle started. Just in case." Thorum called for a vote among the Council representatives in the fleet. It was fast and brutal, species arguing for and against, some pleading for their homeworlds within the blast radius, others arguing that a few billion was better than trillions. In the end, the vote passed by the smallest margin possible. "All ships, this is Admiral Wade. We are authorized to deploy the Omega Protocol. All vessels will withdraw to minimum safe distance. Volunteers to remain and ensure detonation? Step forward now." Thousands volunteered. Vexlar was among them. He had lost everything to the Harvest. Staying to ensure its destruction seemed right, fitting. Sarah Chen volunteered. So did Dr. Yuki Tanaka and hundreds of other humans who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. As the main fleet began withdrawing, the volunteer ships moved toward the heart of the Harvest swarm. They carried the components of the Omega weapon, ready to assemble and detonate. Vexler looked at Earth one last time through the viewport. The blue and green planet that had suffered so much, at least humanity's homeworld would survive. That was something. Then the curator appeared again, not as a projection, physically present inside Vexelar's ship. Inside every ship. Its form seemed more substantial now, more urgent. Wait, there is another way. But it requires a different kind of sacrifice. What are you talking about? Wade demanded. We are out of time. The Omega Protocol will work, the curator said. But it is temporary. The harvest will return in 50,000 years. And again after that. It is an endless cycle. But I can offer you a permanent solution. The being's form shifted, showing complex patterns of energy and information. The harvest consumes civilizations. It learns from them, but it has never encountered a civilization that willingly merged with it. A civilization that uploaded their consciousness into a quantum network and used that network to interface with the harvest itself. Sarah understood immediately. You want us to become digital, to upload billions of minds into a collective network, and use that network to reprogram the harvest. Not reprogram, the curator corrected. Transform. The harvest is not evil. It is simply following its nature. But nature can be changed. If enough consciousness enters the network, if enough will directs it toward a new purpose, the harvest can become something else. Something that protects rather than consumes. That is insane, Thorum said. You are asking us to give up our physical existence, to become something that is not fully alive in any way we understand. You would not lose yourselves, the curator explained. You would change, evolve. My people did this 3 million years ago. We can exist in both digital and physical forms. Members can return to individual bodies when they wish. But together, merged in the network, you would be powerful enough to redirect the harvest. Vexlar looked at his crew, at Lyra, his science officer who had followed him into the dead zone so many months ago. At Thelex, the young pilot who had stayed with him through everything. At the human and council personnel who had learned to work together in 6 short months. If we do this, Vexlar asked, will it truly save the galaxy? Permanently? Nothing is truly permanent, the curator replied. But yes, the transformed harvest will protect this galaxy. It will become the guardian it was perhaps always meant to be. Admiral Wade spoke first. Humanity volunteers? We have already become something different from what we were 3,000 years ago. This is just the next step. One by one, other species agreed. Not all. Some refused, unable to accept such a transformation. But enough volunteered. Millions upon millions of individuals from 30 different species, ready to sacrifice their physical existence for a chance to save the galaxy. The process began. The curator provided the technology. Vast quantum networks were assembled from the fleet systems. Individuals stepped into interface chambers where their consciousness would be scanned, digitized, and uploaded. Vexler was among the first. As his mind separated from his body, he experienced a moment of pure terror, then wonder. He could feel others around him. Not physically, but in a way that was more intimate than any physical sensation. Sarah Chen was there, Admiral Wade, millions of humans who had volunteered first, and slowly, members of other species joining them. Together, this new collective entity reached out to the harvest. They did not fight it. They merged with it. And in merging, they showed it something new. Purpose beyond consumption. Existence beyond destruction. The harvest resisted at first, its ancient programming fighting the change. But there were two.